Welcome to day 7 of the 12 Days of Christmas series. Today I will be creating a snake inspired game themed on the Grinch. So let's get started first by setting up our background. So I'm going to name this background image, Pygame image load res background dot convert. Background image Pygame transform scale. And I am doing this because the image is not the resolution that I need it to be. So I'm rescaling it into my window width and window height. Now if I go down here, I can write screen.blit, my background image at coordinates 0, 0. Now if I run, here I have my image as the background. So let's start working on the player. I'm gonna make a new Python file called player, import pygame from constants, import all, and I'm gonna name this Grinch. Init method, no need for parameters. I'm going to load up my Grinch image, image.load, and then convert alpha. Self.image, Pygame transform, again, because it's not the resolution that I want it to be. And the way this is going to work is that I'm going to have pretty much a tile grid. So if I'm going to have tiles, I want the images to be the tile size as well. So I'm going to go into my constants. And the way it's going to work in here is that my grid size is going to be 12. So it's going to be a 12 by 12 grid within my 800 by 800 pixel window. And the way to get the tile size of that is window width divided by grid size. So in here, I'm going to set it to tile size and tile size. Self.rect, self.image.getRect. And here I'm going to make my position vector 2, just 0, 0 to start off with. The way that the movement is going to work is that I want it to be so that if you press the letter D to go right, I want it to keep going right regardless if you're pressing it or not. And the way to keep that is to memorize what direction you were going in. So I'm going to store that direction using a vector 2. And to prevent the player from moving in any direction at the speed of the frame refresh rate, I'm going to have a move tick attribute. So once this move tick reaches a certain threshold, that will trigger movement, and my movement speed will start off at 2. So let's work on the movement. Let's call the method move, get DT in here, and then events. Align your rect with your position. For events in events, if event type is pygame key down, and I'm just gonna write down the WASD real quick. Okay, so here it is. When I press W, I want the direction X to be 0 and Y to be -1. Opposite for the S. And the A is left on the x-axis, so that'll be -1 and 0, and D is the opposite of that. And here's where the move tick comes in. So move tick plus equals delta time times our speed, and we're going to say if move tick is greater than 1, self.position, we're going to add our direction to it times our tile size. And then after that, we want move tick to start back at 0. And one more method. Let's just see how it looks. Let's draw it on the screen. So screen.blit, self.image, self.position. Into our main, from player, import Grinch. Down here, we can make an instance of it. Let's call it Grinch. Down here, we want Grinch.draw and pass in our screen. So we also need to move the Grinch, Grinch.move, and pass in our delta time and our events. And you can see that he's going kind of fast. I used 1000 instead of 100. So let's try this again, and now he's moving at a reasonable speed. There's one issue. If the Grinch goes outside of the bounds of the window, he just keeps going. So we need to end the game if he hits the wall. So in our Grinch class, I want to make a method called bound. And this is going to return a boolean. So let's say return, and I want to check whether my position X reached negative tile size, or my position X reached greater than window width, or my position Y reached less than tile size, or my position Y reached greater than window height. So if I go back into main and I go right below my event handler, if Grinch.bound run equals false. So let's see this in action. Yep, and the game closes. So now let's work on presents. I'm going to make a new file called present, import pygame, and because I want them spawning in random areas, I'm going to say from random import randint, constants import all, and I'm going to make a class called present. in our init method, I'm gonna get my image, and it's called gift.png, convert alpha, and then self.image equals Pygame transform.scale. I'm gonna pass in my image, and I want it to be tile size by tile size. So self.rect, self.image.getRect. And because we're gonna be repositioning the present every single time we hit it, we're gonna use that to position it. So reposition is going to be the name of this method, and self.rect.top left. And here it's going to take a little bit of math to keep the randomness not messing everything up. So we need a random between 0 and int window width divided by tile size -1, because without that -1 it could spawn outside of the window, and at this point it's a super small number, so we need to multiply it back up to its original size. So I'm going to multiply by tile size again, and I'm going to write the y offset. So that's kind of the same concept, only difference is now I'm working with the height. So now that we have a randomized position, I can just call it self.reposition in the init, and then down here def draw screen green.blit self.image at my rect. We go to main, from present import my present equals present, and then draw it at the very bottom. So now if I run this, you can see the present right here. And if I run it again, now it's here at a perfect grid. So how do I detect if my Grinch hit the gift? So under here, I'm going to say if present.rect.collide rect with my Grinch rect, then I want my present to reposition. Here's something that I decided to do. Because the Grinch isn't, a growing snake, I wanted there to still be some kind of challenge. So I added 1 to my speed. So now if I start the game, if I go towards my gift, you'll see my Grinch speed up, and it does reposition. So now the very last thing is to just have something tell you what score you got. So up here, I'm going to name this final score, and you'll see why I'm using global for this. So final score, and then every time I hit the gift, I want my final score to +1. And once I lose, I want to print my final score. I'll be back whenever I'm about to lose.
2 seconds later.
All right, as you can see, I'm moving quite fast. If I were to lose any second now, you can see I hit 14 gifts. That's it for the game. If you program this with me, let me know what score you got, and I'll see you tomorrow.